Welcome to the American Idiots Podcast, the show where we take the hottest topics currently dividing our country and we debate them with our diverse group of hosts. So sit back and strap in, as for the next 2 hours we leave no story undebated and no politician will be spared. It's the American Idiots Podcast live on Podcast Network 49, and it begins right now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the American Idiots Podcast. I am Money Mike, and I'm super excited about our show here today. We actually have a returning host coming back, making his long-awaited return tonight on our show. So super excited about that. But, of course, I got to do the housekeeping measures. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and give us a like the page, all that good stuff. Share the video. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're aware whenever we upload. And, of course, if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, any of those good places where you get your podcasts, I do encourage you to go ahead and drop us a subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. But with that being said, I'm going to waste no time and go ahead and bring back one of our favorites on this show, the Black Sheep, making his return here tonight. So let's go ahead and just kick it old school for a minute here on the American Idiots. California. Black Sheep, I had to do it. I can't bring you on this show anymore without playing California Love.
It's all right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm good.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. Glad to have you back on the show. And, of course, now we can go ahead and bring on our newest member of the panel, Mr. Cadman. Cadman, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. It's Monday. Got through my paperwork. I'm happy. Survived it. I got a nice, refreshing can of Pepsi. We're good.
Can we do that? Is that legal? Pepsi. Okay. Oh, look at that. This is a first on the American Idiots. Show the logo. Oh, my goodness. That is not a beer.
Nice. Oh, we're going to get along great. Pepsi better.
Oh, okay. And with that, of course, bringing in our other member, our other veteran of the American Idiots Podcast, Manny Hispani. How are you doing this week?
I see. The white guys get to go on first. Gotcha.
Of course, that's exactly what we do here on the American Idiots.
Yeah, your race card. Nice.
Full disclosure.
Every chance I get.
Full disclosure, gentlemen. The Black Sheep texted me last week and said we should all be wearing bow ties because we were spouting the Tucker Carlson line last week. Oh, man. So we're going to have some fun here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to kick it off with something that's been going on for quite a while. I believe there's a political strategy to this, but Joe Biden, of course, again, reestablishing the vaccine mandate and the call for all businesses, private businesses with over 100 employees to either get their employees vaccinated or they face stiff fines and penalties. And we have a story here from Reuters on that.
Republican governors are fighting back against the Biden administration's vaccine mandate for employers. The states of Florida, Georgia, and Alabama jointly sued in the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta on Friday to stop nearly 2 million U.S. employers from being required to get workers tested or vaccinated for COVID-19, arguing that it tramples civil liberties. This comes after President Joe Biden on Thursday said he would enforce the mandate starting January 4th. On Friday, Biden doubled down.
These requirements have broad public support, and they work. This is good for the workers, for their colleagues, for their loved ones, and for their communities. It's also good for the economy.
The lawsuit by the 3 states, as well as 2 trade groups, 2 private companies, and 2 schools, said the mandate exceeded the administration's legal authority and conflicted with the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. The Republican governors of more than a dozen other states also vowed to challenge the mandate. The regulation was implemented as a rarely used emergency rule from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the federal workplace regulator. Texas is among the Republican-led states that have issued executive orders or enacted laws that ban COVID-19 vaccine mandates or prevent employers from seeking an employee's vaccination status. OSHA said the rule takes precedence over conflicting state laws. Even if the mandate is upheld by the courts, some states still might not implement the rule. OSHA applies to private workplaces in 29 states. The remaining states, including at least 5 with Republican leaders who have vowed to oppose the rule, have their own state-run OSHA that is required to adopt the federal rule.
So here's the thing. We now have 27 governors saying that they will not enforce Joe Biden's vaccine mandate. This is no longer a red versus blue issue. Joe would love it to be a red versus blue issue, but this is no longer a red versus blue issue. This has been highly politicized. But here's my thing, and here's my issue with this. While I am fully vaccinated, you cannot, number one, for especially going the way he is, in my mind, you cannot go through OSHA to enforce this. I have questions. How are you going to enforce this on places like my workplace where we work from home? Are you telling me that that I'm creating an unsafe working environment, or my wife, excuse me, by being unvaccinated for myself who's fully vaccinated? I thought that's what the vaccine was for, was to make it okay. So if one of us is vaccinated, why can't the other one? Why do you have to, why would she be required to submit to weekly tests? And the other thing that I think this is, and you guys can feel free to disagree with me, I think this is a highly strategic move by the Biden administration. Remind you that he came out the day after they got drubbed Tuesday in those one-off elections in the non-election cycle year. They got drubbed. And I believe that he is using this to kind of pivot the story into more of something he wants to talk about. Black Sheep, we'll start with you on this.
Well, I mean, it's been since February since I was on the show, and I've listened to a lot of different podcasts, and I've avoided a lot of the news. I don't really care for it anymore. I'm over the pandemic. If people don't want to wear a mask, I don't care. If they don't want to get vaccinated, I don't care. I believe in survival of the fittest. So don't do it.
Right.
That doesn't bother me at all. If you all die from COVID, I don't give a shit. Doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me who the president is. It doesn't affect me who's in Congress. My life has barely changed through all this turmoil in my lifetime. It doesn't matter who's in office. Doesn't matter who's in Congress. They don't get anything done. And I think you're right. This is an agenda of the Biden administration to try to win the next election, and he's going to fail.
I would completely agree with you. Manny, where do you fall on this latest with the vaccine mandate from the Biden administration?
Well, similar to the Black Sheep, if people want to wear a mask, I don't care. People don't want to get vaccinated or do want to get vaccinated, I don't care. Let them get vaccinated. If they die, they die.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ivan Drago over there.
I'm just going back to the how everybody can throw up my body, my choice until it is actually your body, but they don't want to give you the choice.
Very true. And I do believe that actually that is kind of a double standard there. You can scream it when it comes to the abortion stuff, but you don't scream it where it comes to this. Like, you want
a personal choice.
You don't want.
They're forcing you to get it the same way they forced Obama down everybody's throat. Obamacare.
Well, you do have to realize that with the science that they used, with the things Fauci was saying, people thought this was the right thing to do. again, abortion is a totally separate issue from this,
Right.
because if a woman wants to have an abortion, it doesn't affect me.
Right.
But if I were, an elderly 70-year-old man, I would appreciate if people wore masks around me or wanted to get vaccinated, or I would want to be vaccinated because of what has been said, what the science has said.
And I don't see where me being vaccinated would keep it from a 70-year-old man, because now I can still carry it and not even know that I have it.
And you are right about that, because we have seen over the past few months, but I'm just talking about what they were telling us. If you wanted to trust what Dr. Fauci and what the government was saying, even before Biden became the president, that's what a lot of people wanted to do. And I mean, that's all well if somebody feels that way. I mean, if I go somewhere and there's a sign on the door that says, hey, they want us to wear a mask, fuck it, I don't care, I'll wear the mask. It doesn't kill me, it's not going to bother me. But I have been vaccinated and I don't wear a mask in most places that I go.
Right.
Have I gotten COVID? I don't fucking know. I might have gotten it. I might not have. There was a time where I was a little sick, but I never lost my sense of taste. I thought I had a bad cold, but I don't know. I might have had COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to address all of that, I may be the only one on the show that cares if people die. But I'm in full agreement. I deal with it with public all the time. If you come in with a mask, I'm going to let you know, hey, you don't have to wear your mask in here. But if you want to wear it, cool. You want me to wear one too? If you want to, if you're serious about it, I might even oblige you, or I'll get a different salesperson. I'm okay with that too. If I don't really want to wear it, I don't ever want to put a mask on. I don't want to wear it to go to a restaurant. I avoided businesses that made me put them on. I think AT&T was the only place I had to go in and I had to put a mask on. But, since that was last year early, I guess, I looked up the numbers today as of yesterday in my county. Of 100,000 people, we have 59 active cases, according to the Arkansas Department of Health.
Right. And that's one thing that I think's being buried in all of this. Like, of course, we have learned COVID's cyclical. It's going to go up and down. It's going to, it's going to be a wave, but I think it's being buried probably a little bit by this administration.
Oh, absolutely.
But, we are kind of in a downswing. I mean, once again, I'll eat the crow. I thought that masks were going to be needed for these kids to survive going to school, back in person learning, and I'm eating crow on that. I mean, luckily, some parents did. I do believe that some parents, made the decision to have their kids wear some masks, and that helped. But
the problem with Biden and Fauci and Harris and Pelosi, because I'll use those four because there's actual video proof, is that they keep changing what they're saying. Now we're in a downward cycle of COVID. Okay, so cases are going down all across my state. There's less than 4,900 across the entire state. But there is a video that's cycling around Facebook right now where it shows Biden, Fauci, Pelosi, and Harris all saying, no, we can't mandate the vaccine. It'd be unconstitutional. It wouldn't be enforceable. They all said it. And now they're all on the opposite side of that saying, no, now we have to, and we are going to enforce it. So and with them especially, most politicians probably do it too. I don't know, but it's so out there, especially on this, that they have changed what they've said from the beginning to back here and then change it again. There was a great post. It said if Trump would have tried to mandate vaccines, 100% of the people who are for it right now would be against it. But 100% of the people that are against it would still be against it. Well,
I mean, when he had a rally recently, I did see this news clip, and he came out and he told everybody, I mean, just nonchalantly, yeah, go get the vaccine. The entire crowd turned on him,
right.
They don't want to do that. And again, that's good if they don't want to.
Yeah, it's your choice.
But
should be your choice.
As far as the stories changing and things like that, when you look at scientific data and you look how people are trying to figure this problem out, that's how science works. They come up with a hypothesis, they come up with a solution, and if it doesn't work, well, now we're going to try something else, and now we're going to try something else. Science,
Right, but when the data is showing a downward trend, for them to keep pushing, oh, we got to mandate this, we have to mandate this, it really isn't showing that your hypothesis was correct.
they honestly can't mandate it though, and they, I mean, as
Not
Keith
legally.
said, it's unconstitutional. You can't
Right.
come out and force people to do something they don't want to do. I mean, can you regulate federal businesses? Absolutely. You know, I'm
If
sure
it's your
the VA
business, if
has
you
to wear a
own a
mask.
business and you want to do this, do it. It's your business.
Right.
But nobody should have to tell you. They're used to, when I grew, I don't know how old you guys are. I'm 53, so maybe a little older than all of you. Every business in town had a sign on the back counter. It said, "We have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason." It's your business. I don't have to do business with you. And I can be a jerk. I can be a bigot. I can be a racist. I can be a homophobe. I can be anything I want to be, because that's what we are. And you can be what you want to be in America. Now, if I am one of those things, it's going to hurt my business, because sooner or later, people are going to stop wanting to do business with me because I'm a jerk.
Right.
But I have the right to run my business however I want to run it. Period.
One
Right.
thing to address what you said earlier, as far as the Biden, Harris, and Pelosi into that, and I think Sean and Manny would agree with me on this as well. Am I
I'd
surprised?
appreciate it if you wouldn't speak for me, Mike.
Well, we don't
Got
know
enough
how
white
well
people doing that for Mexicans already.
touche,
Well,
touche.
if you spoke English better, we'd be okay.
I think that what you see is obviously a Democrat, speaking from the center, and then once they're elected, to meet that mass amount of appeal, and then once they're elected, they move more to the left, or
Typical
in
politician.
this case, move more to the right. I think that part is there. Now, to speak on Fauci, and Sean, I'm going to address this to you because I didn't think I came to this conclusion before you left us. I think that there would be people would swallow this a lot easier if people weren't on the news speaking in absolutes. So like you said earlier, this isn't an absolute. There's nothing absolute about science. It's constantly evolving. So why not have Fauci come out and say, okay, right now, masks are really important?
There are absolutes in science.
Right.
I mean, gravity, I mean, go jump off of a 20-story building, you know what's going to happen. We know that they're absolutes. But to get to those absolutes takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of hard work. And
years of research.
Unfortunately, Fauci was put into a position where he had to rush things. And the media didn't help in that as well, when people came out and said, hey, this may have come from China. And then people are getting canceled left and right all over the country, Twitter, Facebook, all this other stuff. And now there's been a new narrative in the last few months where they're saying it may have actually come from China. And it's like, well, why can't we just sit back and do the job to try to solve the problem, figure out what happened without coming to conclusions? Or, you know what, let people form their own conclusions and have their own opinions without this fucking cancel culture and all this bullshit. Joe Rogan is a great example of, a great orator who he got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
He took medication prescribed by a doctor and was attacked left and right by the media, for taking horse tranquilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that they said. They wanted to discredit the man. They wanted to say,
Right.
oh, well, he's a bad person. He's doing this.
Correct?
Right.
Ivermectin, yep.
And as it turns out, this is a medication that had been used on humans for a long time. And it happens to be used for different animals as well. Human beings are animals. And
Right.
so we can use different medications on different species of animals. It just works that way. So for all the people that want to again, jump the gun, jump the shark, whatever you want to say, and, cause the fervor and keep dividing us left and right and all the other bullshit. I mean, I'm over it. Everybody should be over it.
Right. And I think we all are as a country. And we'll get into, last week's elections where I believe we saw that. But real quick, before we do get into that, let's talk a little bit about Texas voting laws. Last week, the Supreme Court actually made started hearing arguments on the Texas voting laws. We have a story here from KPRC. Click to Houston on this.
Developing tonight, the Department of Justice is suing Texas over its new voting law. In a lawsuit filed today, they say the restrictions disenfranchise eligible voters and violates federal voting rights laws. Our Keith Garvin is live in downtown tonight with new details in this legal battle. Keith?
Chris, we're outside Harris County election headquarters. Harris County was, of course, at the center of this controversial new measure, and the Department of Justice has stepped in to try to overturn this new bill.
This is not at all an unexpected lawsuit.
The Department of Justice has returned legal fire aimed at Texas' controversial SB 1 law, which has impacted voting, a fight, you'll recall, that led Democratic lawmakers to leave the state capitol twice in an effort to thwart the bill. The DOJ says the new law violates a section of the Voting Rights Act by improperly restricting what assistance in the polling booth voters who have a disability or are unable to read or write can receive.
The Department of Justice sees this as a definite infringement upon the fundamental right to vote.
Professor Eddie Carter is a professor of constitutional law, philosophy, and ethics at Prairie View A&M University. Carter says while the DOJ's action was expected, it may not have much of a chance based on an Arizona case decided at the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this year. The High Court decided that states have a right to take proactive measures to diminish or eliminate the possibility of voter fraud.
The bottom line is that does not portend well for this particular lawsuit with regard to it going before the Supreme Court.
Whether the case heads to the Supreme Court, it remains in place in Texas. The next move belongs to the state.
Texas will respond to that, and the governor has already said that this law was passed with the intention of preserving election integrity. And I believe in his words were "bring it on."
And the DOJ lawsuit also contends that this new law is in violation of the nation's Civil Rights Act. Reporting live from downtown Houston, Keith Garvin, KPRC 2 News.
Thank you.
So I only have two minds on this Texas voting law that just passed. The first mind I'm of is, number one, this isn't a Supreme Court issue. This is an issue better left up to the states. I don't think that they're going to win in the Supreme Court. I don't see it happening. The other mind I'm of, though, is I do not like the way this law is written. It closes polling places, as well as it closes polling places. And if you look geographically at the polling places, and it's been months since I actually researched this, but they tend to be in more lower income places. That's
but the thing that they're complaining about and suing based on has nothing to do with that.
Right. And once again, don't think they're going to win that. I'm just laying out my issues with the law in general.
I've got a lot of issues with a lot of different laws.
True.
Take them to the court. Take them to the Supreme Court. That's where you should be.
Well, I mean, that's where everything's decided.
Okay,
nowadays,
sorry.
we have to go to the Supreme Court.
I read the article, and the only things that I saw that it was closing is the 24/7 polling place or voting booths. Did I miss something in there?
From what I understand, and again, mind you, I don't even remember the source I was reading this from, but it was probably, as most media is nowadays, it was probably leaning against the voter law.
Well, it's racist. That's why. It's always racist.
That they said were at risk of being closed. And of course, we're talking about Texas. Texas is a large state. Hundreds is probably a blip on the radar to as many polling locations as they have. But again, why close polling locations? What's the point of closing these polling locations if they're actually operating within the laws and what have you? Why do you need to close a polling location?
And I don't know all the details. Are there enough people to work them? You know,
Are there enough people to work them, and how many votes did those actually bring in? I mean, if they brought in a very small margin of votes, and there is another place fairly close by that they could go, I can understand it closing something.
So you're of the mindset that, you know, it's just a numbers issue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That becomes a thing. Now, here's another question, too. Let's say that you had some people to work it, but you didn't have anybody but Republicans to work it. Well, I wouldn't want that, because you need folks from both sides to make sure things are on the up and up, because they probably both sides cheat if there's nobody watching. That's when you find out what you're made of, is what do you do when nobody's watching? So
we talked about this before we went on the air, me and you, Cadman, that I said, I know this is a very cynical way of looking at it, but if you don't think they're cheating on both sides for the highest office in the country, you're probably kidding yourself. I know that's a very cynical way of looking at it, but that's where I am on that.
We should let the black sheep in, but he said none of this affects him, so I don't know.
The other thing that I look at is they're real good at throwing the headlines out there with no information to back things up. They said that this also violates the Civil Rights Act, but they never tell you how it violates it. I wish they would give us that information.
He didn't say anything about that. Sean, or Black Sheep, excuse me, he did allude to you a second ago. He said, you know, obviously this doesn't affect you and what have you. First off, though, I do want to ask you, is this a state issue, or is this an issue that should be decided by the Supreme Court?
I am happy that you did defer to the Mexican American first.
Oh my God. No, he jumped in. No, he jumped in all on his own. He didn't ask.
Yeah, being a Swiss American, I don't have a right to speak from my European descent. So, you know.
Or you're too white.
Exactly. I mean, I do have the blue eye. I am the blue-eyed devil. So,
and then the Pollock down there, he's too white.
Right. This all boils down to censorship for me. I oppose censorship in any way, any form whatsoever. I do not like cancel culture. I don't like voter suppression. I don't like anything that cancels out someone's opportunity to voice their opinion. So we have a problem in this country where people want to be able to vote, and some people want to oppress other people's right to vote.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I think everyone in this country that is a citizen has a right to vote if they're of legal age, and they should be afforded that opportunity as easily as possible. It should be a national holiday. There should be more polling places open. You should be able to mail in. We should be able to solve any problems that people throw out there. Well, this could be a cause for voter fraud. Solve the fucking problem. Okay. Well, we were able to capture fire and evolve to the point of creating this massive civilization all over this planet, right? We're simple-minded apes, but look what we've been able to do in just the last 10,000 years.
Right.
You know, it's fucking amazing. So can we solve these problems? Absolutely, we can. We have to work together to do that. That's the main issue, is that people don't want to work together.
You got to get the greedy people out of the way.
Agreed.
Well, that is a part of it, yes. You know, capitalism is not inherently evil, but the system can be used for great evil. You know, when you have someone like Jeff Bezos, who, you know, on a whim just wants to go to fucking space with William Shatner, that's kind of fucked up. You know, how many?
Why is that messed up?
How many fucking Americans live just above starvation in a poverty level in rural counties in Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi? You know, it's mainly the South. I mean, you could argue.
Why is that Jeff Bezos' problem or William Shatner's?
No, I'm just saying that when we have such issues, why should it be allowed that one man who, again, on a whim, can work with NASA and get government contracts and be able to just, hey, I want to go to space. Cool. I'm going to go to space. That's really fucked up. Again, being a species, we should be collectively working for our survival. I don't care about communism, socialism, all the other bullshit. What I'm worried about is the survival of the species. And at this point, we're not doing a good fucking job.
Look at
If
Sean
I
getting
make
beat.
bread better than the guy next to me, and more people come for my bread than come for his bread, I don't see why I should have to dumb anything down.
Well, I'm not saying that,
No, I hear your point.
What I'm saying is that
Where's the line, though, Black Sheep? Where's the line? I mean, because I see both points. Is how much good can Bezos do with the money that he has? How much
Right.
good is he doing? I don't know an answer to that.
I mean,
He's not feeding all the stuff
up
hungry
to
people. I know
him.
that.
You have Elon Musk on the other side saying that he wants to end world hunger and he wants to pump out billions of dollars to do that. Well, that's great and all, and I hope that he achieves that goal. But I've heard many people say that throughout my life,
Right.
and they have not achieved that goal. I mean, let's just take the Congo in Africa, for example. How many billions of dollars have nations thrown at the Congo? And the civil war and the warlords have just ravaged that land, have ravaged all the animal species. They have, you have the Rwanda genocide, all sorts of craziness that has happened over the last 40 years. This money was supposed to solve all of those problems, and it didn't. So
I'm going to throw out a super controversial statement. So
Okay.
just leave it alone, because we'll be on this for an hour. Okay. Some people are homeless and hungry and broke because they choose to be. Not all, but some people are, and you trying to fix it. It's you can't fix it if people won't. People have to want to help themselves. You know that. I mean, I've busted my hump. I'm 50. I'm old. I've busted my hump to get where I'm at. I don't want to have to pay for. I help. Don't get me wrong. I give here and I give there. I'm not super stingy. My wife's stingy. I'm not. I hope she doesn't watch this podcast. But when I don't know the good answer. I mean, I can go feed 10 people. Tonight I can go pick them up, get them dinner without any issue. It wouldn't hurt me in any fashion. But if that doesn't solve the problem, I recall seeing a tweet or something about that world hunger and Elon Musk. Somebody made the statement that $6 billion could end world hunger, and Elon Musk stepped up and said, "Show me how. You show me how I can do it for $6 billion, I'll do it."
Right.
And that's the problem. Nobody has a plan, because you're still going to find people that will. We may fix it, and a year later, half the people we just helped are back in world hunger again. Because
I can agree with
I don't
that.
know how to
Without a
fix that. It's
plan,
messed up. It's
without
so
a plan
screwed
in
up.
place, we're just throwing money at an issue that we're going to continue throwing money at. I can
What happened
definitely see that.
What happened to survival of the fittest that we started with, though? I'm just curious.
Well, no, I do believe in survival of the fittest. I don't care how many people die. It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, people have been dying for billions of years, whatever.
Hashtag kill
We're
the
going to
bear.
die for another million.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, I want to see, our species be able to survive, in the next 500 years. I want to see what we can actually accomplish. I mean, my great grandmother, when she was born, it was horse and carriages, and she got to see the space shuttle.
I know.
In her lifetime.
That's crazy.
Now, we haven't seen as much innovation as she saw.
No.
Now, technologically, I guess, I don't know. I see the internet as probably one of the worst things that has happened to our society. But as far as innovation goes, we're getting to the point where we're becoming stagnant, especially here in America. It's getting very bad. And we've allowed the Chinese to steal our production, our jobs, our wages, our debt.
Yep.
And we don't do anything about that. Both sides cater to China, and either we do something about that and really start taking care of like our population so that we can help other people, or fuck it, we're doomed.
Well, and I think you make a damn good point. You know, whenever the vaccines first started rolling out, Lord knows, you know, we've had a hard time getting enough Americans vaccinated. But one of the first things that I think a lot of people disagreed with, but that I agreed with, that Trump said was, we're going to make sure our people get vaccinated before we send anybody else out, before we send vaccines anywhere else.
Right.
Like, it starts at home. Honestly, that's what people forget. You know, it's the key fundamental of activism is think local, or think globally, act locally. People forget the act locally part.
My kids are getting fed before I go buy a homeless guy dinner.
Right, but there's also a fundamental problem as far as what is truth. We have such divisions on what so many people believe, whether you lean to the left, you lean to the right, you're religious, you're not religious, you believe in reason and science, or you believe in superstition, whatever. We need to find a common ground on just what is the fucking truth.
Right.
And until we get to that point, I don't think we're going to have a lot of progress towards anything that is going to be beneficial to mankind in general.
Absolutely, I would agree. Manny, you've been quiet for a minute.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about it. I mean, you are covering all the topics, really.
I mean, touche. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So my question on this, and I think the pundits on the television are making a bigger deal out of what happened last week than what it is. But the question is, what do last week's results say about next year's midterms and about the current administration in power? And we have a story here from the Washington Post.
All righty, Virginia, we won this thing!
A year after winning back the presidency and the Senate, Democrats got a reality check on Tuesday. Election Day 2021 featured a Republican takeover in Virginia, and right now a very close race, shockingly, for New Jersey governor. Two of the most significant issues in Virginia appeared to be Donald Trump and Democrats' inability to tie Republican Glenn Youngkin to him, as well as the issue of schools, which Republicans used with great gusto throughout the entire campaign.
Virginia parents have a right to make decisions on their children's education. That's the Virginia I grew up in. Terry McAuliffe wants to change that.
I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Republicans ran with this, and McAuliffe was forced to explain himself in his own ad.
Glenn Youngkin's taking my words out of context. I've always valued the concerns of parents.
It's possible to oversell the salience of one gaffe on a campaign trail, but the backdrop of all of this was unhappiness with how Virginia schools reopened during the pandemic. While former Governor Terry McAuliffe's campaign sought to tie Youngkin to Trump at every opportunity, exit polls showed that a majority of Virginians actually liked Youngkin, even though only 42% liked Trump. The exit polls also showed that a majority of people said that parents should have a lot of say over what is taught to their children. All of it combined to make schools a major issue in this campaign, and it's one that Republicans seem to benefit more from. While Virginia was the big one everyone was watching on Election Day, maybe the more shocking outcome came in New Jersey, where incumbent Governor Phil Murphy was neck and neck with Republican Jack Ciattarelli. And New Jersey is actually a bluer state than Virginia, which speaks to the fact that this is about, at least to some degree, the national environment shifting towards Republicans. The fallout from Tuesday could have impacts on both Democrats' agenda and their midterm prospects next year. Democrats wanted to pass their spending and infrastructure bills before Election Day, thinking it might help McAuliffe win in Virginia. Now they'll have to deal with the idea that perhaps this isn't something that the American people are clamoring for. Tuesday definitely showed that Republicans have the wind at their backs right now, and what we need to remember is that they don't need much wind at their backs. They need to win only 5 House seats and 1 Senate seat to win each chamber. And history shows that midterm elections are generally very good for the opposition party.
So, a couple of things here. First thing I think we saw last Tuesday was, number one, you can't ride Trump anymore. You cannot tie a candidate to Donald Trump any longer. The man's been out of office for a year. Well, not a year, for 8 months at this point. 11 months, excuse me, at this point. And it doesn't work anymore. You can't blame this guy for being pro-Trump. It's just not there anymore for people. The other thing I think we learned here is exactly what myself, Sean, Manny, everybody on this podcast a year ago said when we were talking about Joe Biden winning the presidency. Number one, correct me if I'm wrong, but Black Sheep wanted Joe Biden to come out swinging. That's not exactly what we've seen. We've seen Joe Biden come out swinging on COVID. That's about it. And it's costing him greatly. I think that's one of the big issues that we saw come up is that nothing's happening. The other one, they were talking about the education situation. I'll say this much. Do parents deserve to have a say in their kids' education? Absolutely. What I will say, and Manny, me and you have talked about this on the show before. This was before you came in, Cadman. But why are we having an argument over whether it's called CRT or whether it's, if it's history, fucking teach it. If it's math, fucking teach it. Like, that's where it is. Like, I don't know why we're having an argument about whether we should be teaching about whether slavery existed or, these things that have happened to African Americans. They're historical fact. Teach it. Move on. Our kids can survive. Now, again, I think for kids to actually grasp it, and I think Manny, me and you both agreed on this. Correct me if I'm wrong on this as well. But I think we both agreed that for the maturity level to be there, obviously you save some things for high school age kids.
Right.
Try to, so they can actually grasp the gravity of what happened. But why are we even arguing about this? Manny, I'll start with you. What do you think of the election and everything?
As far as the elections go, I think they are undermining one important thing that we're starting to see. The younger voters that are starting to come in don't care as much about party lines as the older voters did.
Agreed.
So just because things seem like they're going Republican way in a couple of areas doesn't mean that it's going to be the same way when the presidency is decided again.
True. Good point. I would agree with that. And I think it's a great thing that people aren't wearing jerseys anymore. I think that honestly, like the way we used to wear jerseys, I used to proudly wear my Republican jersey. But ever since I took it off, and kind of opened my mind to different ideas and what have you, it's a little bit more freeing. Like, hey, okay, I don't have to say I'm a Republican, but I don't agree with them on this matter.
Right.
It's a lot more freeing once you take off that jersey. And I think
that's why when I started on this podcast, I told y'all, I am more of a realist than a conservative or anything else.
Absolutely.
Facts are facts, period. There's truth that I believe, and there's things that I don't believe.
Very true.
So it's not about what's been hammered into somebody or anything like that.
Where do you sit on the education thing? Are you with me still on, parents can have a say, but parents
definitely need to know. Parents definitely need to know what their children is being taught. No, they don't need to know what they're being taught.
Sean?
I mean, if they want to be involved and they want to see what the curriculum is, sure. But as far as
that's basically what I said.
My parents wanting things to be taught in schools are this. There are people out there that believe that the earth is 6,000 years old, that the earth is flat, that religion should be taught in schools. And if you want that kind of horseshit taught to your children, put them in a private religious school that will teach them that bullshit. And that's
fine. I disagree with you there. Like I said, Parents deserve to know what their child is being taught so that whenever they come home or even before they go to school for that school year, their parent can say, listen, you're going to hear some of this and you're going to hear some of this and you're going to hear some of this, but this is the way we believe.
Okay.
I'm not saying they deserve to push their thoughts into the school, but they definitely deserve to know what their child is being taught.
And that's fair, and I would agree with that. Recently,
There have been a lot of cases where teachers have said things not realizing that the parent was listening in on the computer that these kids were being taught on.
right. And recently, one of my children came to my wife and I and told us that, and this was a social studies teacher, was talking about civilizations, different things about history, prehistory, and got to the point of evolution and said, yes, but I don't believe that. You know, what I believe is that the world is only 6,000 years old, and this is what my preacher teaches, and this is what our church believes, and pulled out a Bible and started reading out of the Bible in class. And, you know, we had to contact the school and say, look, not every believer denies evolution.
Right.
When you look at the majority of believers that are out there, as far as Christianity goes, the majority believes in evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are more Catholics than there are Protestants. Even the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches that evolution is a part of God's plan. So when we pointed this out to the, teacher, she was shocked beyond belief that anybody would disagree with anything that she said. She said, well, I won't do that anymore. But just the mere fact that she had no clue, no idea that people that call themselves Christians believe in evolution. It was unfathomable to her that anybody would say that. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I wanted to make that point so that she understood that it's like I said earlier, there are fundamental truths that we need to get to and agree on, but we can't because of different ideals that we're all indoctrinated into, that we're all, taught to believe. And, until we break those chains and those shackles, we're going to be just sitting here doing what we've been doing for the last 10,000 years. It's terrible.
Well, and one thing I will say about this, Sean, I was completely on board with what you were saying up until the fact where she pulled out the Bible. The Bible, I feel like that stepped over the line. As far as a publicly funded institution, I felt like that's where the line,
Well, if she wanted
but her actually saying, hey, I don't necessarily agree. I have no problem with
if
that.
she wanted to share her opinion and say, I don't agree with this, I have no issue with that. It's when she tried to, indoctrinate our class that, hey, this is what, my church teaches and we believe. And it's like, lady, you don't want me to come up there and debate this issue with you.
Right.
Because you're going to lose. And that just shouldn't happen. So I took a different route and said, look, there are religious people out there that do believe this, and leave enough alone.
Right. Cadman, one thing also, and Manny, you can chime in on this as well. One thing also that McLaughlin, I think is how you say his name, tried to tie Youngkin to was being anti-vaccine. And Youngkin, clearly stated multiple times, hey, I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm going to give you a choice whether you want to go get the vaccine or not. Do you think that was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back as far as Youngkin actually prevailing in this election?
No, I still think it was that one slip up that he did where he said that parents. Now, I don't like the wording that Manny used. Parents deserve to know what their kids are being taught. There are a lot of parents out there, unfortunately, don't give a crap what the kids are being taught because they're not good. They're not good parents.
Right.
It's just a reality. So we deal with that. I think if a parent wants to know what their kids are being taught, then they have a right to know what the kids are being taught. But they need to pursue it. I need to help my kid with math. I need to know how to do the math problem. History. Because there becomes the problem with how history is taught. Things happened. If you can teach history without your bias, cool. But history is taught by those who won. So you're always gonna, it's hard not to have a bias in there, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, good point. I mean, the book is written from the point of the winners.
If Hitler would have won, history would have been taught an entirely different way, you know? So
I would hope and pray that we still didn't embrace Nazism, but yeah, good point.
I love the movie. It's Count of Monte Cristo, the remake. At one point, the bad guy's dad was he was a Napoleon follower, and he said, history's going to show that we're wrong, and the guy made the point is, if we win, then history's going to write it different, isn't it? We're going to be the good guys, and you're going to be the bad guys. So, and that's the reality. So, as far when what was whoever Youngkin was running again, McLaughlin or whatever it was, when he made that statement, whether it was a Freudian slip or whether he meant to say it and then tried to walk it back because he knows he screwed up, that's what we'll never know. When he said parents shouldn't have any say in what the kids are being taught, that burned him bad, because every parent that heard that stepped over top of him to go vote for Youngkin. So
now,
and I think it was more than that. Yes, that was a big part of it, but I mean, him being pro-vaccine, no matter what, I think that hurt a lot of his numbers as well.
I would agree. I think him constantly, and I think again, Democrats need to learn this lesson. Constantly trying to tie him to Trump.
We lost Black.
He showed that he was more of an anti-Trumper than a pro whatever he was going for.
Right. It was Trump's. I hate to use this term, but Trump's not your whipping boy no more. Like you can't use him anymore. If you still
want to whoop on Trump, you can't win now, because everybody has seen that. Yes, we voted for you because we hate Trump, but now we realize that you were screwing stuff up, and we voted for you for the wrong reason. So we're done doing that.
Right. Absolutely. Do you think this has greater reaching implications past this election, or do you think that this is kind of a wake-up call and Democrats are going to learn their lesson and take their medicine on this one?
If Democrats were going to learn their lesson, he wouldn't have come out strong on the mandate right after it.
Right.
They're not going to learn their lesson. That was the dumbest thing he could do, is come out strong again on the mandate after they got beat and almost beat. That was impressive stupidity.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, the infrastructure bill, and we can go ahead and kind of dive into this a little bit. We'll play the video here in a second, but the infrastructure bill that passed quietly in the middle of the night in the House of Representatives to go to Joe Biden's desk. Like, bro, you do these things right after you just got walloped in an election. Like, if anything, Tuesday, I would say, was a call to move back. Like, hey, Joe, you're too far over here. I'm going to need you to move back towards the center a little bit. I'm going to need you to actually do some things that I can get behind. And once again, let's be honest, we said it for a long time now. I'm going to need you to do something at this point. We have so much debt. Hey, once again, just like we were talking about earlier with the issue of world hunger and what have you, if you don't have a plan, we're just throwing money at it. And it's like, I thought about this the other day. It's like Democrats think they have a credit card when they're in the Oval Office with an unlimited spending limit. And that they think throwing money at any issue is going to solve it. They don't want to get above the surface level issue as to the underlying root causes of that issue either, in my opinion.
I don't think it's just Democrats, though.
Very true.
There are those Republicans that do the same thing.
Very true. And I mean, you make a good point. I will say this though. I heard a interview with Senator Manchin. I think is how you say his name. Manchin. Excuse me, Senator Manchin. After the election, and he said, this is a this is a wake-up call to us. We need to move back to the center. We need to start getting things done. Unfortunately, though, there's this disconnect, kind of like there was a disconnect between Republicans and the higher, Republican Party under the last administration. I feel like there's just as big a disconnect that we're seeing between Senate and congressional Democrats and Pelosi, Biden, Harris, and everybody else that's in that upper echelon, that the message isn't there. Like right after that, you see the clip of Nancy Pelosi in this video that I saw put together saying, hey, we're going to pass this $1 trillion infrastructure bill, and basically you can't do shit about it. Like, I said this last year when Joe Biden won. Yes, Joe Biden set records. Yes, Joe Biden did something that nobody else ever did, if you believe the voting tallies, the final voting tallies. But if you should have learned anything from last year's election, it's that America remains deeply, deeply divided, almost evenly divided, and that whoever was to govern needed to govern from the middle, and we're not seeing that. I'll let you guys, I kind of went on a diatribe there. I'll let you guys kind of respond to some of that stuff.
Well, the infrastructure bill, it's absolutely asinine. The problem is that we keep, again, we're throwing money. How many times have we been taxed for the same thing, and they haven't never fixed it yet? Okay, we're going to do this half-cent tax, this half-cent tax, and we're going to get these roads fixed, and nothing's fixed. So let's do another $1 trillion, and we're not going to fix anything else. Now we're going to and I don't even know what's in this thing. I don't even know if they know what's in this thing. Are we throwing money for? But there was at one point they had health care for single mom, or no, child care for single moms as part of an infrastructure bill. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is infrastructure now? Because they have labeled everything infrastructure. We're just going to give money away and call it infrastructure. I always thought it was roads, bridges, and
Right.
stuff like that. That's what the infrastructure is. But apparently we have more money than we know what to do with, because we keep giving it away to other countries. Now we're giving it away to illegal immigrants. We're giving it away to this, and we're not taking care of. It comes back to we're not taking care of our own. Take our money and fix our stuff.
I would again caution, we do have a spending limit. We do have a spending limit, and we've greatly exceeded it already long ago. But
hey, I hate Bill Clinton, but he balanced the budget.
Yeah, very true.
He had a balanced budget. I can't remember a president in my lifetime with a balanced budget other than him.
Once again, hypocrisy between the two parties. But again, one of the most buried facts about Republicans and Democrats, congressional Republicans and Democrats, Republicans were all ready to vote on this infrastructure bill for, bridges, tunnels, overpasses, all that good stuff. But the hang up was the Build Back Better plan. Democrats wanted to slide that in this infrastructure bill. Again, not that Republicans haven't slid things in bills before, but that's where we are as far as this goes. They tried to slide the Build Back Better into this, and that's where the whole situation got caught up. Manny, do you want to say anything before we do the video?
No, play the video.
Okay, here we go. We have a video from the Today Show.
Welcome back.
A big win for President Biden overnight. The House passing a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, a bipartisan achievement and a massive investment in the nation's outdated infrastructure.
Our success on the infrastructure bill is a tribute to President Biden. He really made the difference.
Tens of billions of dollars for roads, bridges, public transportation, ports, broadband, and clean drinking water. The bill passed 228 to 206. With 6 Democrats voting against the measure and 13 Republicans for it. It comes after a long, chaotic day on Capitol Hill, where the other part of the president's agenda stalled once again.
Do you not trust your house, the other moderates in the House?
Look, we began today with what we thought was an understanding, ready to cast our votes, and a very small cohort of our colleagues moved the goalposts.
A handful of moderate Democrats withheld their support for the $1.75 trillion care and climate change plan. They want a nonpartisan congressional analysis of the cost of the bill and its impact on the economy, something that could take up to 2 weeks. In exchange, the moderates vowed to support the multi-trillion-dollar plan once the budget analysis is released.
It is actually codifying that promise that our colleagues have made to us tonight. And let me tell you, we're going to trust each other because the Democratic Party is together on this.
What's at stake? That plan encompasses the rest of Biden's agenda: childcare, free preschool, home-based elder care, $35 insulin, and hundreds of billions of dollars for clean energy.
The ability to pass the Build Back Better plan. This is the first major step. We're in the best place ever today to be able to go forward. We have not had this level of progress.
The House did advance a key procedural vote on that multi-trillion-dollar plan. But the earliest the House can actually pass it is the week of November 15th. It would then go to the Senate, where it would be debated and modified, then have to come back to the House. In short, Peter, it still has a long road ahead.
Leanne Caldwell on Capitol Hill this morning. Leanne, thanks very much.
I just want to point out before you say anything, man, even they mentioned that Biden's win came overnight.
Right, exactly. And again, I'm not here to play the talking out of both sides of my mouth. Republicans and Democrats sneak things through in the middle of the night, sneak things into bails all the time. It happens. Both sides. One thing I will say is, what is in Build Back Better that they refused 14 days of an analysis to prove that this is actually something that is going to be beneficial for them?
That was the other thing that I wrote down, was they're mad because the other people wanted proof.
Like, you have 14 of your colleagues in the Democratic Party who, I mean, I laughed. I don't know if you guys can see me whenever we're off camera, but I laughed when she said the Democratic Party is, together on this. Like, bro, come on now. But this Build Back Better plan, what are you trying to sneak in there that, of all people, Democrats are like, yo, I'm going to need a cost analysis on this? Like, once again, we just talked in the previous topic about how Democrats seemingly think that there's this endless money pit that you can throw money at issues and pick it out of the bag and throw money at issues. Sean, it looks like you disagree with me on that. But, and now Democrats are actually saying, hey, whoa, let's not spend this money. Let's figure out if it's actually going to be beneficial. And Sean, you're the one that gave me the crazy eyes, and you didn't get a chance to respond when I said that about Democrats having this endless credit card with no spending limit, or so they believe.
Well, they both believe that. I mean, when you look at Republicans, it's endless spending for big business and the military. I mean, yeah, they're going to do whatever they want. When it comes to Democrats, it's all about their identity politics and big pharma and their big business interests. So, I mean, they're all in it together. Now, they both have different agendas, and they both go about things in different ways. I mean, when you say, Republicans are the party of the conservatives, what are you trying to conserve? That's the question that I ask. Let's be specific about that. What are you trying to conserve? When you look at the Democratic Party, the party of supposed progressives, why aren't we progressing to things that are better? Why are we stagnant? Good point. So it just, there's a double-edged sword there. I heard last week that, one of you guys made the comment as far as how people accuse the Republican Party for not being there for the people. And, a lot of Democrats see it that way. A lot of Democrats see their party as the party that is trying to help, the small guy.
Right.
I don't necessarily believe that, because every Democrat that's been in power, I mean, let's take President Obama, for example. What did he do?
I mean, true.
What did he do? How many promises did he break? There were so many things that he had the opportunity to do, just like Biden has the opportunity to do a lot of things right now, and he's wasting that opportunity. And that's going to end up costing him the House, the Senate, maybe even the election coming up.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the presidency. I mean, you look at your Senate members, you look at your House members, you look at your Congress. It goes all the way through.
Well, I mean, the same thing could be said about Trump, too. I mean,
very true.
Hillary was never arrested. They never found all the pedophiles that QAnon was talking about. You know, the evil cabal was never toppled.
The swamp was definitely not drained.
Right. Nothing happened. It stayed the same. So just take from Obama to Trump to Biden. Nothing has changed.
Right. But what I'm saying is it is not just the presidency. It's basically every member of government. Because we all know that it's not the presidency that makes laws.
Right.
And so you implement change at other levels, but they're not trying to implement change to better humanity.
Some would argue that both parties are in different ways. The Republicans are trying again to conserve something. I don't know exactly what it is they're trying to conserve, but the progressives are supposed to be fixing things and making things better, and they haven't done that yet either.
Very true. Very
You know,
true.
regardless of who's in charge, regardless of what bill they're trying to get passed, if you're afraid of someone shining a light on it, then there's something wrong with it. No matter who's in charge, if you're afraid of somebody looking at it, reading through it, verifying it, and that goes for anything, anywhere, any local government all the way up to the top, whether it's at schools, in any aspect of life. But when we're talking about affecting every person in the country on a bill that they're afraid a light to be shown on it, I'm a little concerned about that,
My thing is this, and you guys can feel free to answer this, like, what is Build Back Better going to accomplish in the next 14 days that it won't be able to accomplish in 14 days whenever they had a chance to vote on it again? Can anybody say what it can accomplish in the next?
It won't accomplish anything for the first 2 years, even if doesn't matter when they pass it.
Like, I don't understand why the upper echelon, and again, Sean, I made this comparison. I feel like it's the same disconnect because Manchin came out and said, after they got walloped last week, Manchin came out and said, hey, we need to move back to the center a little bit, wake up call. But the next day, Nancy Pelosi is talking about Build Back Better still. Like, it seems like there's a disconnect between the average, I don't want to say average every day, but average everyday, senator or representative in the upper echelon in the Oval Office, or, Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, just like there was between Trump and the average everyday Republican in the Congress. Is that something that's normal? Because I don't remember that under Bush, Obama, or Clinton.
Yeah, this is absolutely normal. I mean, when you look at any type of budget, they always ask for more. It's never less.
Right.
Hey, I've got a question. I saw on that post within the Build Back Better thing, they've got something that's going to get insulin down to $35. Why don't you just do that part now? That'll help a bunch of folks. Just do that all by itself.
They could.
Why we got to package it in with a bunch of stupid crap? Pick something that's really good that'll help a bunch of folks. Do that now. That'll pass.
Well, and we've talked about that before. Why do we even try to sneak things in? Like, sneaking things in is the worst part of politics, because it takes something like infrastructure, for example, where they tried to attach Build Back Better, and it crippled the infrastructure. Luckily, they were able to separate it again, but it crippled the infrastructure bill from even being able to be passed, or it delayed it, excuse me.
The reason why they sneak things in is because, take Dell Bumpers, for example, former, senator from Arkansas, who got millions of dollars to study the emotional trauma affected on pigs in slaughterhouses. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Somebody that he knew got a great big giant bill to, do funding to do this. And, that's what happens. There's all sorts of backdoor deals on both sides. Scratch my back, scratch yours. I'm going to help my cousin. I'm going to help my friend that I went to, Yale with or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that's why that shit happens. I mean, we all know this. We're asking
It's not like you know it too, you know.
Why is this bill so much? Because if they ask for less, then they would get less.
Very true.
It's always going to be more. It's a never-ending cycle. It's not ever going to stop. This system that we have, this capitalist system, it's unsustainable because we keep consuming more. We want more. We're using up the resources, right? These are finite resources. Eventually the system's going to collapse. It's inevitable.
That's the first anti-capitalist thing you've gone on that I was actually like, makes me think about it. How much, people do continually, hey, I want more, rather than, hey, I'm cool here. Let me just chill for a little bit.
Well,
I see your point there.
And the government wants more and more and more, and it's never ending. It's not going to stop.
That is the first time I've actually heard an argument against capitalism that I was like, gave me pause. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we do all kind of think we have this infinite money bag that we can throw money at stuff. I mean, even as average everyday Americans, but
But it's the same greedy politicians. It doesn't matter if it was capitalism or some other kind of government. The same greedy politicians are going to mess it up no matter what it is.
I mean, this is true.
You could argue that, but that, again, you have to go back to those fundamental truths that I talked about, where we all have to agree. Either we're going to work for the continuation of our species, or let's just say fuck it, and we're all going to die miserably someday.
Which goes back to my point. That's those same greedy politicians.
Push the button. End it all. Get it done.
Okay, gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie yesterday urged Trump to, quote unquote, tell the truth about 2020. And we have a story on that from CNN.
The Republican governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, spoke at the Reagan Library. This is part of what he had to say about the GOP.
We need to face the realities of the 2020 election and learn, not hide from them. We need to renounce the conspiracy theorists and the truth deniers, the ones who know better and the ones who are just plain nuts. We need to give our supporters facts that will help them put all those fantasies to rest, so everyone can focus with clear minds on the issues that really matter. We need to quit wasting our time, our energy, and our credibility on claims that won't ever convince anyone of anything.
So clearly he's thinking about 2024, but how significant is it that he's coming out and saying the GOP has to renounce conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, I mean, listen, those remarks in a vacuum, I would be standing up and cheering if I didn't know the person saying them. The reality is Chris Christie was a strong backer of Donald Trump. I believe he was backing him in the 2020 election after Lafayette Square, after all the COVID hoaxes. And so, I mean, it falls a little flat.
And at the Reagan Library,
I
mean, it's not like he's going to a Trump rally saying that. He's at the Reagan Library saying it.
The message isn't the problem. The messenger is.
Very clear and concise there.
So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you this. Whenever Sean gets back, he can talk on it as well. The former governor makes a good point. I mean, of course, wrap it in the tapestry of the fact that it looks like he's going to run in 2024, and he's already going after the presumed front runner for the Republican nomination. But Chris Christie makes a good point there. I believe this is the next step to what we saw last Tuesday. And I believe it is very, very true in that we not only prove that, a Republican can win, we also now have to learn from the mistakes we made in 2020. We can't bury those. We can't constantly stick our head in the ground and say, Donald Trump was screwed out of the presidency and we'll never accept this. That's what cost, honestly, in my mind, that's what cost Democrats the election in 2004. They couldn't get over the fact that George W. Bush won the election, 2004. They couldn't get over the fact that George W. Bush won the election in 2000 in the Supreme Court. They kept that narrative up. And I feel like it could cost Republicans if they kept the same rhetoric. So I believe Chris Christie brings up a very valuable point that we need to learn the lesson of a year ago.
I'm going to jump out there and just say that everybody who spoke in that interview, Chris Christie and all three people on the panel, are freaking idiots.
Okay.
It just pissed me off to have to listen to it. So with that said, the blonde chick, she threw out a couple of things in there that were just the old Democrat talking head lies about it. Really, she brought up that Trump was saying the COVID was a hoax. He never said it. I watched all the clips. I watched the little pieces they pulled out. Forget about what the other one was. I'm guessing, but they pulled so many things out of context in one little clip and would never play the whole. I'm just sick of the talking points, and not to mention that they're years old already. As far as Christie and that goes, I would partially agree that we need to stop talking about the 2020. You're never going to convince the people that think it was stolen are never going to be convinced it wasn't stolen. It's not a conspiracy theory. There's just too many unanswered questions, and nobody wants. And there's another thing: they don't want a light shown on. They don't. If you didn't think anything happened, cool, audit them all. We don't care. We think it's legit. But if you know it's not legit, you're going to fight audits everywhere you go. Fact. That's just the reality. If you want to know something in my life, ask me a question. If I don't want to tell you, I'm hiding something. That's just a fact. To tell people to renounce the conspiracy theorists, that's over the line. I think you can say, hey, we need to stop talking about this. It's done. It's over. There's nothing you can do about it. Let's focus on making make America great again. If we're going to do it again, or whatever the slogan's going to be. Let's move forward. Let's quit living in the past of what happened. It happened. It's over. You can't beat it. Let's move on. And let's just focus on the American people and making it better for them.
Now,
but to say you got to renounce everything. Sorry.
In presidential politics, though, you do have to appeal to that broader base. So do you believe that Christie actually believes in renouncing these people, or do you believe he's saying this to appeal to that broader base to potentially get support to win the Republican nomination here in another 3 years?
I don't know. He's a politician. And again, we discussed this earlier. We know that politicians say what they need to say to get the voters behind them when it matters. But when we get to the point, the difference, and people will argue it all day long, don't really care. Trump said what he said when he was running. He tried to do what he said he was going to do when he got elected. He didn't change. There was nothing about him that said, there was nothing that he didn't try to get done that he promised he was going to try to get done. Where Biden, exact opposite. Obama, exact opposite. That's the problem. And whether you like Trump, hate Trump, he tried to do exactly what he said he was going to try to do. He never held on it. He didn't change his mind.
He's probably the sore thumb outlier of the people that I mentioned earlier, but Trump is probably the only example I can think of that, whenever he was elected, he didn't really move. He was right in the run up to 2016, and when he was elected, he stayed in that position. Could it have cost him? Yes, but he didn't move back to the center to get elected only to move right. He started right and stayed right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Manny, what do you think?
Well, one thing that I'm noticing is you've got everybody pushing the pin into Trump. Either they're trying to say, hey, look, I'm like Trump, vote for me, or hey, I'm not like Trump, y'all need to get rid of that and vote for me. They need to stop comparing themselves to Trump or comparing themselves against Trump.
Right.
Run on your values, period.
True. Very
That's
good point.
that's the biggest problem I have with all of that. I mean, what good does denouncing anything do?
Right.
If you're not going to live
At
it.
this point, like Cadman said, like you've mentioned, the ones that believe this the conspiracy are going to believe it. The ones that don't believe the conspiracy will never believe it.
Now,
So why are we joining hands around this circle?
do you think though that I am right in that if Republicans keep saying that they were screwed, a la Democrats in 2000 into the run up to 2004, do you think it could come back and cost them in 4 years?
I don't think you're ever right, Mike. No. Yes, if they keep saying stuff like that, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. But I haven't heard a lot of people talking about that.
No, nobody cares anymore.
Right.
It's old news. CNN is the only one still talking about it. And they've got, their ratings have plummeted horribly. Why is Don Lemon still on a channel at all? Let alone Cuomo. Is he still on CNN? I don't know.
Shockingly,
it is no longer relative news.
I like Lemon. I can't stand Cuomo though. Cuomo's Cuomo is what I consider. You guys remember O'Brien that was on Fox News? Bill O'Brien, was that his name?
Yeah. Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly, that's what it was. Bill O'Reilly. He is like CNN's version of Bill O'Reilly for me. Like the dude is just pompous, arrogant. I don't want to fucking listen. Like Don Lemon, I feel like actually will listen to you and let you talk, and then he may, agree or disagree. Man, Cuomo's a blowhard, just like his brother.
Nobody seemed to be embracing this and bringing this up that, hey, it's conspiracy, this and that.
Right.
But for whatever reason, Christie decided he needed to go out there and say, hey, we got to denounce this.
Hey, I actually heard Lemon on the news talking about this. One of the reasons I can't listen to him. He called everybody that would not take the vaccine, he called them stupid on air. He said, "You're just stupid for not taking it." I was like, really? Aaron Rodgers talked to his doctor. His doctor advised him against the vaccine, and now he's facing crap, partly because he led people astray. I get that.
Aaron put his own bed. Aaron made his own bed on that one.
He deceived people on purpose. He didn't come straight out and lie, but he led them down the road to where they would assume he got the vaccine. I get that. Right. But you know what? It should be his choice. If his doctor told him not to do it, what the hell? It's like,
yeah, the medical professional that he has relied on for how many years now?
Right, exactly. And I think with Aaron, it's a special case. I think Aaron is just because he did lead people to believe the vaccine. That's my only problem. If he would have been like, "Yo, I'm not getting the fucking vaccine," I'd be like, "Cool, that's your choice." I mean, go ahead and follow NFL protocols, but that's your choice, bub. Go ahead, go for it. As far as this goes, though, the biggest shred of truth I take from Christie is, learning the lessons we learned from 12 months ago as a Republican Party. Learn those lessons and apply them forward, and, you take that next step. Of course, I don't think Chris Christie's going to even sniff the Republican nomination because short of Rudy Giuliani, he may be the most corrupt politician in the Republican Party's history.
You don't like Rudy?
That's neither here nor there.
What's wrong with Rudy?
Is Christie still trying to control size portions and meals?
He is
drink sizes.
He is something else. I do not understand what he is even thinking if he's thinking about running again. I mean, we can sit here and pontificate on Trump's chances of getting the Republican nomination again, but Chris Christie, come on, that's laughable. That's laughable. That's a certainty that he will not even sniff the Republican nomination here in 4 years, or 3 years, excuse me.
Well, no, in two they'll start running in 2 more years. So
shoot, they'll probably start running in a year.
yeah,
Honestly,
it could be.
they start right after the midterms. But I do think that is an important next step for the Republican Party to sit back, understand, and I think even Donald Trump. I think should we see, and I don't think he's made the announcement yet. I think he gave himself a deadline, or he put out a deadline to make the official announcement. But I don't think he's made the official announcement. I think if we see Trump again in a presidential campaign, we'll see an evolved Trump. I don't think we're going to see the same Donald Trump we saw 4 years ago. Or even a year ago. I think Trump, for as much as he's an asshole and a blowhard, yada, 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 Trump's not a dumb man. Trump learned his lessons, and he's going to learn from what missteps he made, and he's going to try to correct those errors here in 3 years should he choose to run again.
Yep.
Agreed.
I hope so. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, maybe not. Who
I'd
knows?
vote for DeSantis if he ran.
I was about to say he could come back out and say, hey, let's fucking build a wall and all that shit again, and he'll probably do well. I don't think if he ran exactly the same he would win the nomination again, but he would probably do well at the very least. Okay, y'all, last topic of the night before we get into our American Idiot of the Week. In the wake of the Rush shooting on set, Dwayne Johnson has now pledged he will not use real firearms on his movies or on his production company's movies. And we have a story here from Entertainment Tonight.
Some big Hollywood names are making major safety moves in the wake of the Rust tragedy.
Yeah, starting with one of the biggest action stars in the world, Dwayne Johnson and his production company taking this serious pledge.
Moving forward, we will not use real guns ever again. We are going to be using rubber guns, and we'll take care of it in post. And we won't worry about the dollars, we won't worry about math or what the cost is. I think we're going to do it the right way.
The new protocol is a major shift for The Rock.
Hey, you know what? We should get this.
Back in 2010, on the set of Faster, he showed me a real gun on set and followed appropriate safety measures.
Chamber's empty.
I don't even want to mess with it. And Angelina Jolie, who handled firearms in Salt and the Lara Croft franchise, is also speaking out after the Rust shooting, saying, quote, I've always been very careful because I've had to work with guns a lot. The way I've worked or checked when I'm directing, there are certain procedures you have to take it very seriously. And armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is doubling down on that sabotage theory. Her attorney tells E.T., never in a million years did Hannah think that live rounds could have been in the dummy round box.
I believe that somebody who would do that would want to sabotage the set.
I think it's going to be a very hard theory to prove out.
Legal expert Rachel Stockman says it all depends on what evidence is uncovered.
Right now, the attorneys, I think, are just floating a theory in anticipation of possible charges.
So I'm not going to sit here and say what I think a lot of people would want to hear, or a lot of Democrats or what have you would want to hear. No, we don't need tighter gun regulations because of this. No, we don't need all of that. But I will say, am I the only one getting the vibe that Hollywood is like years and years behind on gun safety? Like, holy crap, dude. Like, the fact that nobody thought, hey, let's just use a fake gun until this happened, that's a problem in my mind.
They've used rubber guns in the past. They've used many different variations of a gun throughout different productions. You always had your armorer that had the different prompts. Sometimes the scene called for a more lifelike gun, and how more lifelike can you get than a real gun?
That's true. I don't know, and it's a tragedy. You know, the whole thing is tragic. Somebody lost their life. It's absolutely horrible. I don't know if you want to switch to rubber guns. Switch to rubber guns. It's your call. At that point, I mean, but everybody else, you know,
But I don't think it is. Are you telling me that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to turn down a movie part if somebody hands him a real gun instead of a rubber gun?
I don't care what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does because he's a Biden supporter. Anyway, but that's a whole nother news story. There was a "Don't be dumb as a rock." No, it's gonna. They will switch back as soon as if they lose money. Listen, if you can make it work with rubber guns and you don't lose money because it's a money maker. It's all it is. It's always about the money.
Yeah.
And if they lose money because if they went to rubber guns, they'll switch back to real guns. That's the reality. If they lose money
you had children that were killed by a helicopter on what was that? Twilight Zone? What movie was that? Yeah, Twilight Zone.
I was about to say I don't remember the issue, but I mean this is the second time I remember an issue like this occurring. The Crow, Bruce Lee's kid.
Brandon Lee. But we think there's a possibility that was super intentional, but again, conspiracy theories.
Right, very true. And I mean, again, conspiracy.
Okay, you have stunt doubles that are always getting injured. You have bystanders that are getting injured, but I mean, they don't change a whole lot of things there.
Yeah, good point.
Accidents happen.
They do.
That's fair to say. I can agree. The fact that what about this is making everybody think, oh, we've got to make these broad, overreaching changes? Like, why?
Because that's what everybody thinks that everybody else wants to hear.
It's all based on stupidity and throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, here's a thought. If this was intentional, if somebody switched out the rounds trying to kill somebody, guess what? If they didn't get their intended target, then the intended target's still going to die somewhere else.
True.
That's, if it was an accident, then it was an accident. And then they are very few and far between. Very few.
And if it was negligence, then it was negligence, and that will be found.
Right. Absolutely. And it's, even if we find out it's negligence, I think with somebody being harmed, you accidentally shoot somebody in your home, what's going to happen? Kind of like the cop situation. There shouldn't be a double standard here. You're going to go, whoever is found to have been negligent needs to be arrested and, face some jail time themselves.
Right.
Just like, any average everyday citizen. It goes back to the same situation we talked about with the cops. If the cops shoot somebody and they did it unlawfully, then they need to go to jail.
But to your question, what I'm trying to point out is that everybody wants to be first on this. Oh, look, we're doing it different over here.
True.
Thinking that it's going to raise the stakes of their name brand.
True. And I mean, if you don't think The Rock made that pretty clear statement, he didn't have to do that on Entertainment Tonight.
Exactly. And that's what I was telling Keith. That's what I was telling Keith while you were gone was if somebody hands him an actual gun on set, do you really think that he's going to put it down and say, I quit? No, because you're using that?
True.
He's going to get his money.
To be fair, obviously some safety protocols weren't followed on this. I think that's completely obvious. Just looking at the video we showed, Rock, emptied the clip, made sure, nothing was in there that shouldn't have been in there. And then, he followed.
Well, yes. He showed an empty chamber or an empty cylinder in the gun he was using because they had a backup on how they were going to put in the visual effect for the actual gun firing.
Right.
Other studios do things differently. Other studios will use blanks so that actors know when to react when they hear the sound of the gun going off.
Right.
So just because a different studio does it a different way, and if you think that there are movies that he has been in that he didn't use a gun that had blanks in it, I would say you're crazy.
Okay.
All the action movies that he has been in, I guarantee you, there's been at least one gun that had a blank that he fired.
Well, and I mean, even more so, and I'm not looking to attack The Rock for making the decision, it's cool that he made this decision, but
It's
even
the
more so,
person.
I think it would have been looked at less opportunistically if
Right.
he had done something similar to Angelina Jolie, where she just said, hey, I'm following all safety protocols. I'm just putting this out there. I'm following it because I work with guns every day, on my
Right.
even if he would have just done something like that. But he really, you're right. He did not have to politicize the fact that he isn't going to use real weapons any longer by any
So
stretch.
there's nothing real about The Rock anymore. His muscles are fake. His wrestling career was fake. His guns are now fake. He probably has hair.
It's just been a bald cap all these years. Well,
The only thing that may be real is him doing his own stunts, because I don't know that anybody is that cut to do stunts for him.
That's true.
All his tattoos are arm sleeves,
Actually, what you just described, Cadman, he's perfectly set up for what they're talking about, and that's him running for president in the next few years. I'm just saying, he's perfect, man. He's all set. Oh, y'all. Okay, so American Idiot of the Week. My American Idiot of the Week, and this won't surprise any of y'all, is going to be Miss Jenna Ryan. She was a member of the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol.
I saw that.
She decided that she was going to tweet that she would not receive any time in prison for her crime. And I haven't seen any video, but if the judge didn't look at her after seeing that and say, fuck around and find out, I'm greatly disappointed in the judge. He did sentence her. I think it was honestly minimal. I think it was only 60 days.
What was her crime?
Yeah.
The judgment decided that was a lie and that was not true, and she learned a lesson.
What was her crime?
Oh, she was just one of the insurrectionists.
I was about to say, I don't think it detailed exactly what.
So trespassing. Ooh.
Trespassing, yeah. I'm assuming it's something small like that if it was only 60 days. I saw a picture of her. She didn't look like one of the, she wasn't the dude with her feet up on the desk. That's from Arkansas. That dude, oh my goodness. He's another one that.
She wasn't toting around a fire extinguisher?
She wasn't the QAnon, what do they call them? The QAnon yeoman or whatever with the fucking fox on his head and shit.
Oh,
She definitely wasn't one of the main planners or one of the main actors in that, but she did receive 60 days in jail. So
that guy had his own cameraman. What's up with that? That was some insurrection. That guy had his own cameraman and police escort into the office. I was like,
bro, like I'm sitting here wondering, like CNN's got cameras inside of the fucking Capitol and shit, and I'm just sitting here like, y'all didn't touch him, but y'all fucking everything else up. Like, damn, okay.
Well, CNN helped plan it, so they,
Ooh.
They knew. Hey, how the heck they know how to have where they can't have the cameras at the right time? Don't give me that crap.
I mean, touche.
So stupid.
Okay, Cadman. Who's your American Idiot of the Week?
I'm going with the Virginia gubernatorial candidate that decided to say the parents shouldn't be involved with the students' education. I mean, that was the dumbest statement. Wow. Just to come straight out and say, just vote for me because I know what's better than you do. Wow. That's just dumb. And it bit him in the butt.
Well, and then he turned around and it's like, my opponent took my comments out of context. Like, no, motherfucker, you actually said that shit.
Yeah, no, you said it right on stage. Yep, we're good. We saw it.
Like the Republican in California actually said that shit. You may have meant something else, but you said that shit.
Yeah, at least at least he doesn't have kids bouncing on his lap, stroking the hair on his legs.
Ooh. Oh, what a groaner. Okay, Manny, who you got?
Well, originally I had a 2-for-1. Roger Flowers and Keith Edwards. Do you know about this one? No? Okay. They were 2 officers that were nabbed in an FBI sting for protecting cocaine going from one side of Miami-Dade to the other side of Miami-Dade. Originally, those were my American Idiots of the Week, but that was until I came across the story of Henry Ruggs III. Do we know about this guy?
Yes.
NFL wide receiver who was released by the Raiders and decided to go on a bender and then drive his Corvette in excess of 150 miles an hour, running into the back of a Toyota and causing it to veer into a pole, which killed the driver of the Toyota.
No, Manny, I will make this story even worse for you. He wasn't released yet. That wasn't the reason why. He was released after he was charged with
really
crimes. He just went out drinking. He just went out drinking, decided to fuck up his life as well as the people that he killed. I think he actually killed a woman and her kid.
No, it was a woman and her dog.
Oh, was it a dog? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a kid. Okay, yeah, but she,
I saw this movie. It's called The Longest Yard.
You know what's sad about that is people are coming out and they're like, hey, give this young man a break. He's a young man. He made a mistake. I'm for that, but here's the thing: how many people are coming out and saying, "What about this woman? What about the victim of this crime?" You don't see that very often, but everybody always screaming about the victim, we got to believe the victim, so on and so forth nowadays.
If we're going to say that actions have consequences, then we have to show that there are actual consequences.
Absolutely.
And when you decide to drink to the point that it impairs your walking and get into a sports car and drive over 150 miles an hour, 156 is what they clocked him at.
Jesus.
Down a public road.
In Vegas, mind you. I believe it was in Vegas.
Yes, it was Vegas. Something needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
it's no longer, hey, give this guy a chance. He made a mistake. No, he needs some repercussions there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And
we talked about this before the show. There's so many people who don't want to pay the consequence of said action, knowing is like we were talking about voting rights and stuff like that. Listen, if you know that if you become a felon, you don't get to vote again, and you break the law anyway, well, guess what? You don't get to vote again, and you don't get to argue the point later. Just a thought.
And there's a big difference between what I'm about to say and me saying that he shouldn't be punished. But I mean, do I feel sorry for the kid for fucking up his life at such a young age? A life that obviously he would have been, he would have had a damn good life had he not made that choice. Yeah, I feel bad for the kid. He made a dumb decision, but now he has to pay the consequences for that decision. And I'm not going to feel sorry for the fact that the kid is now going to go to prison for a long time, hopefully. And I'm not going to feel bad that the U.S., judicial system brings justice to this family who now, I don't know if she was married, but, possibly kids without their mom, a husband without a wife, and a mother without a daughter now,
Fair compensation. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well,
for that reason, Henry Ruggs III became my American Idiot of the Week.
Yeah, that's a special one. But gentlemen, I think that's pretty much all I have for tonight. Is there anything you guys can think of that you wanted to discuss before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, we will see you guys next week right here, same time, same channel, all that good stuff on the American Idiots. Good night, everybody.
Good night.